Hi. Hey, chat. Hey, chat. Looking mighty fine today. How you doing? How you guys doing? Hey, Katie. Nice of you to join. What's up, Greek yogurt? Hey, Wing Chun boys. What's up, Rita? How's it going? Does anyone else play Wordle while I do it? You can, but you never beat me. You know, I'm like a Wordle expert now, right? Like, I can do it in my sleep. I'm just so good. What's up, Nikki? How's it going? Hey, Bigfoot. What's up, Hope? The Red Whirlwind. Hey, what's up, Dan? How's it going? Uh, Benjamin. Hey. Okay. You know, remember last week in the story, they were like, they were drinking this tea called Bilochun. I bought it. So I bought the tea. Want to see? This is Bilochun tea. Okay. Yeah. All right. I bought it. I have the teapot here. I haven't drank it yet. Okay. So we'll see if it's as good as they say. Okay. Is it a heavenly taste? How special is this tea? We shall see. Hold on. All right. Let's see. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. You know what? On second thought, it's kind of hot. All right, let's leave it there for a couple of seconds so I don't burn myself on screen. Hey, Malik. Nice of you to join. This is super immersive. You want tea brewing ASMR? Oh, did you hear me pour? That was some ASMR. Maybe I'll do a little bit of while drinking it. Okay. Then we'll add in a little bit of. You like the teapot? Yeah, it's cool, right? Want to see? Yeah, it has a little flower design and stuff. Start the Wordle ceremony. Well, I can't drink the tea now. It's super hot. Okay. But we'll see what Bilochun tea tastes like. Maybe we'll do the Wordle and then we'll drink it, okay? What's up, Lush? Alright. Okay. Okay. I'm like a Wordle expert now, okay? It'll take me like 2 minutes. Okay? Just 2 minutes. I won't look at the chat. Alright, starting now. Oh. Off to a good start. Oh. So good. Okay, we have 4 letters now. Stem. Stem. Stemp. Stank. Stank. Stem. Steam. Is this Steam? Oh my god. Oh wait, it can't be Steam. A is not there. Okay, never mind. S M E tea. Smet. Smet? What is smet? That doesn't make any sense. Or as SMT. That doesn't seem like a word. No. TM? It has to be MT. No. Well, it can't be an M. It must be SME. Then is it T and S? Or S? Smecked. Sment. Smept. Wait. Smelt? Smelt? Like smelting? I think we got it. Unless there's something else. L, smelt. Smeh. 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 Smept. Smecked. No, this is the only one. We got it. Ah! How long was that? Was that 3 minutes? Smext. Smex sounds like another kinky text game. Okay, well, I think you just have a dirty, dirty mind. Usually you want to brew green tea at a lower temperature. Okay, I don't know what temperature. I just pour in boiling water, okay? Is that bad? I make tea by pouring in boiling water. And that's it. Some people say you're supposed to wash it. So you you pour in boiling water and then rinse it really quick and throw that first wash away. And then you pour in the second wash, and that's what you drink. Okay, that's what I heard. But that's way too much work for me. So I just pour in boiling water. Say your name so that your mom would be proud. I don't know how to say your name. Gatal Siapa. What's up? How's it going? Dun dun. Okay. I think it's cooled down enough. All right. This is immersion, okay? We're drinking tea along with the story. This is Bi Luo Chun tea. Let's see how it tastes. Tastes like green tea. I don't. It tastes like normal green tea to me. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not getting a heavenly taste, but it's pretty good. Not bad, okay? Not bad. Wait, boiling water is for black tea, not for green? What are you supposed to... Well, what temperature are you supposed to use for green tea then? Can we look it up? What temperature for green tea? You sent me a song request? Oh, I did. I got it. Don't worry. So it says 180 degrees for green tea. Wait a minute. Man, I don't know. I just have a pot, okay? What temperature for black tea? Oh god, this is too much. So for black tea, it's 212, a full boil. So green tea, it's got to be a little bit lower than that. I see. Oh. You know what? Drinking tea on while reading, not a bad idea. I'm feeling refreshed. All right. Enough of that. Okay. All right, guys. Let's get into it. What happened last week in our story? So last week, this Jiumozi guy, this guy called the Enlightened Lord of the Great Wheel, right? This monk from Tibet, who's not very nice. Okay, he's not very nice. He kidnaps Duan Yu. He goes to the home of they're traveling to the home of Mu Rongbo, this Mu Rongbo guy who recently died. Okay. Now Jiumozi says that Mu Rongbo was his friend. Okay. And he's supposed to burn, he had a promise to his friend that he's supposed to burn this divine sword secret manual over his friend's grave. All right. This is the secret martial arts manual of the Duan family. So remember, he tried to get it, but he couldn't. The monks burned that secret manual, so to keep it out of his hands. So he kidnaps Duan Yu instead, because it seems like Duan Yu knows the martial arts. So Duan Yu, he's taking Duan Yu to Mu Rongbo's grave. Now Duan Yu suspects that this is just a trick, and he wasn't friends with Mu Rongbo, this monk. This monk probably just wants the martial arts technique. Like, that's why he kidnaps Duan Yu. So Jiumozi takes Duan Yu to the Murong family residence to burn him over the grave, but he has trouble finding it. He doesn't know where it is. On the way, they run into Cui Baichan and his nephew Gui Yanzi. So remember, Cui Baichan is the guy who hid in the Dali Imperial Palace for 10 years. Now, Mu Rongbo killed Cui Baichan's martial brother, so they want to get revenge, right? So they run into, they don't know where it is. They run into this servant girl who's on this little boat, right? She's just rowing by. And she seems like a sweet and charming girl. She can sing and she can use like regular objects as instruments. So she used the dude's abacus like an instrument. She says she'll lead them to the Murong residence. So they all hop onto her boat, and she takes this winding path through this lake or whatever, or pool of water. And they get to a place with some houses, right? But she says, well, this is where the servants live. This is not the main residence, right? Now everyone's annoyed. Like, what the fuck? We're supposed to go to the main residence. So at this place where the servants live, the servants' residence, they serve everyone some delicious food and tea, right? But Duan Yu is the only one eating. Everyone else is suspicious. They also serve this Bilo Chun tea, which is this, which is supposed to be really good. Now the whole atmosphere is strange. Something is off. All right, something seems off, but no one knows what. Everyone gets annoyed because they're like, "Hey, bring us to the master of the house. Right? We want to meet him. All right? We want to." Cui Baichan wants to get revenge. And they bring out this old servant, and he says the young master is not home, right? And that's where we left off. How's that? Where do you find the readings that you missed out on? In the description, there should be a playlist, a link to a playlist. Or you can go to the home page of the YouTube channel and scroll to the bottom. There should be like a playlist of the readings. Yeah. Most awkward road trip ever. Oh, you think if Duan, you think the tea is poisoned, or you think the food is poisoned? I don't think so. I don't think the food is poisoned. I think they're just being super suspicious. I would be suspicious too. All right. Where am I at? All right, so here's the old guy. He's the old servant. His name is Sun San. Sun San. He goes, but with blah, 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 blah. So he says, our young master is not here, right? Yet the young master is gone, so just leave me a message. Basically, what he's saying. All right, chapter 11, part 2. Let's go. At this point, Duan Yu suddenly smelled a light, fragrant scent. His heart swayed. Strange, strange. Earlier, when that old male servant had come to the room, Duan Yu smelled a fragrant scent. The fragrance seemed vaguely familiar to the scent, which Mu Wanqing's body also had. Although it was very different, both were feminine smells. Originally, Duan Yu thought that this fragrance was coming from Abi. So Abi was that servant girl that rode them to this place. And so did not think too much of it. But as soon as that old servant left the room, the fragrance disappeared. But as soon as the self-claimed Sun San entered the room, Duan Yu once again smelled this scent. Duan Yu suddenly understood that the reason he felt awkward earlier was because he smelled the fragrant scent of a 17, 18-year-old girl on the body of an 80, 90-year-old man. Why? Why? Oh, time change. Oh yeah, true. Didi, you missed it. We did have a time change. I should have warned the international peoples. If you missed it, Didi, I have Bilo Chun tea. Okay, that Duan Yu drink, and it's okay. It's not amazing, but it's okay. He thought to himself, can it be that in the inner pavilion is grown some sort of strange flowers or remarkable grass, and so anyone who comes here from that pavilion is covered by that scent? The other possibility is that both that old servant and this skinny fellow are actually women in disguise. Although the scent made Duan Yu feel suspicious, it was very light and nearly unnoticeable. Jiumozi and the other two didn't smell the fragrance at all. The only reason Duan Yu himself was able to notice it was because he and Mu Wanqing underwent a rare life and death situation together at the mountain cliff. Nobody else would pay any attention to this faint virginal smell, but to him this scent made a deep impression within his heart and his very bones. It was a much stronger scent to him than that of musk, white sandalwood, or flowery perfume. Although Jiumozi possessed an extremely deep reservoir of internal energy, he had strictly followed Buddhist prohibitions against sexual encounters all his life. Rosy cheeks and verdant temples were nothing more to him than skeletal bones and colorless skulls. Fragrant powders and rouge were even less to him. He had no idea that men and women had different scents. Although Duan Yu suspected that Sun San was actually a woman in disguise, he couldn't spot a single flaw or giveaway. Not only did this person have the bearing and demeanor of a man, his shape and his voice weren't womanly at all. Suddenly, he thought to himself, if a woman is imitating a man, he can't fake his Adam's apple. He secretly glanced at Sun San's throat, but saw that his goat-like beard perfectly covered his larynx. Try brewing the tea in 180-degree water. How do I know it's 180 degrees? I just have a pot. Do I need a temperature? I guess I can. I have a meat thermometer. Maybe I can use that. Duan Yu rose to his feet. He pretended to examine the calligraphy and painting on the walls, and casually strolled past Sun San's side. He snuck a side glance and saw that Sun San's throat didn't have the slightest bulge at all, and that his chest seemed full and plump. Although Duan Yu still couldn't be absolutely certain that Sun San was a woman, such a skinny man definitely should not have so much flesh and muscle on his chest. Duan Yu, having discovered a secret, felt very amused. There's a lot more to be played out in this drama. Let's see what she has planned next. So it does seem like this old dude is a girl. Is a girl with a really good disguise. Duan Yu noticed because he's a horn dog. Truth. I can boil it and then leave it for about 5 minutes. So if you boil something and leave it for 5 minutes, it turns into 180 degrees. Okay. Jumozu sighed. I met with your deceased master by the boundaries of Sichuan. We discussed martial arts and very much admired each other's abilities, and became friends. I wouldn't have imagined that the heavens themselves would be envious of his talents, and leave such a useless, mediocre fellow as myself alive, while taking the life of your deceased master, and sending him to meet Buddha in the Western Paradise. The only reason I have left Tibet and come to the Central Plains is to pay my respects before his mausoleum, due to our ancient friendship. It does not matter whether or not someone is here to welcome me properly. Steward, I would simply like to trouble you to lead the way. So it really seems like this Jimotsu guy is lying, okay? Like if he was really a close friend, then he wouldn't be welcomed this way, right? Like they don't seem to know him at all. Sun San wrinkled his forehead as though he felt extremely awkward. This Jimoju said, I don't know if there is some difficulty in my request, and humbly request your instruction. Sun San said, Great master, since you are a bosom friend of my deceased master, you surely must know his temperament. My deceased master hated when people came to pay visits to him. He said that of those visitors who came to the manor, if they didn't come on a mission of vengeance, then they came to try and convince him to take them on as a student. A level below this would be those who came to beg for money, or try to cause trouble and pilfer something from us. He said that monks and nuns were even less trustworthy. Sorry. As he said this, he suddenly seemed to realize that with these words he must have offended Jumotsu. He hurriedly pressed his hands over his mouth. The manner in which she acted was totally in accordance with that of a young maiden. Her round eyes widened, and the black pupils of her eyes spun. Although she quickly drooped her eyelids down, Duan Yu, who was paying close attention, couldn't help but feel a sense of glee. Not only is Sun San female, she's a young girl. Casting a side glance at Abi, he noticed a trace of a sly smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Oh, it's definitely a girl. Definitely a disguise. He no longer had any more doubt in his heart. Sun San and the old Huang clearly are the same person. Perhaps that sister Ah Ju she was speaking about. Duan Yu has an amazing woman radar. He knows if you're a girl or not. Oh no. I might have to make another pot of tea. Drinking too fast. Jumotsu heaved a sigh. In this world, there are more deceitful people than there are honest people. It is not unreasonable for Mr. Murong to refuse to meet with most folk. Sun San said, Right. Our deceased master's last words were, If anyone wishes to conduct memorial ceremonies at my tomb or sweep my grave, politely turn them away. Those evil baldies probably just want to dig into my tomb. Great master, please don't think too much. The thieving baldies our deceased master spoke of probably was not you. Duan Yu was secretly amused. The phrase cursing about evil baldies in front of a monk applies to this situation perfectly. Then he thought, this evil baldy has totally maintained his composure and not batted an eyelid. The more evil and loathsome a person is, the better his temper is. This evil baldy really is a remarkable person. Jiamozu said, These last words of your deceased master are understandable. His might shook the world, and he left behind many enemies. It's reasonable for him to guard against enemies who did not dare attempt revenge on him when he was living, but who would try to disturb his bones after his death. Sounds just like you. Sun San said, If someone wishes to disturb the bones of our deceased master, that would really be like an elderly cat smelling salted fish. Jiamozu was startled. What do you mean, an elderly cat smelling salted fish? Sun San replied, This is called smelling dried fish, meaning don't even think about it, So it's a word play. That's the word. So the phrase smelling dried fish and don't even think about it sounds exactly the same in Mandarin Chinese. Okay. Jiamozu replied, so that's how it is. I was very good bosom friends with Mr. Murong. My only desire is to pay my respects before his tomb. Steward, no need to be so skeptical. So it doesn't seem anyone is fooled by this guy. Sun San said, The honest truth is I don't have the authority to grant you your wish. If I were to go against my deceased master's last command, when the young master returns and finds out, he'll break my old legs. How about this? I'll go invite the old mistress and ask her to come up with a plan. What do you think? Jiamozu replied, The old mistress? Who are you referring to? Sun San said, Old Mistress Murong. She was our deceased master's aunt. Every time an old friend of the old master came, they would kowtow to her and pay their respects. With the young master not at home, everything needs to go through the old mistress. Jiamozu replied, That's very good to know. Please, inform the old mistress that Jiamozu of Tibet has come to pay his respects to her. Sun San said, Great master, you are too polite. You flatter us too much. As he spoke, he entered the main pavilion. Duan Yu thought to himself, This girl is both intelligent and strange. I wonder why she is playing all these pranks on this evil baldy. After a long period of time, a clattering of rings and ornaments could be heard as an old lady tottered out of the inner pavilion. Before she herself arrived, that light fragrance arrived first. Duan Yu couldn't help but smile. He thought to himself, This time she's dressed up as an old lady. Okay, so she's like a master of disguise. The old lady wore an ancient copper-colored satin skirt and coat, wearing jade bracelets around her wrists and pearls and jade ornaments in her hair. Her appearance was graceful and luxurious, but had many wrinkles on her face. Her eyes seemed confused and misty, as though they could no longer see. Duan Yu secretly cheered. This young lass is incredible. Whatever she dresses up as she looks like. What's even more amazing is that she was able to change in such a short period of time. Her movements are so swift, it really must be acclaimed as the height of perfection in the art. What are those people? What are those magicians that changes their clothes really quick? What are they called? She's one of those people. The old lady supported herself on a walking stick, entering the pavilion with faltering steps. She said, Abi. How do I do an old lady sound? Abi, have friends of your old master arrived? Why haven't they kowtowed to me? Her head turned left and right as though she had very poor eyesight and couldn't tell who was present. Abi gestured towards Jimozu and said in a low voice, Quick, kowtow, as though you kowtow. As soon as you kowtow, the old mistress will be very happy and will agree to anything. The old lady turned her head around, cupping her hands around her ears so as to hear more clearly. She loudly said, Girl, what did you just say? Did they kowtow yet? Jimozu said, Old mistress, how are you? This humble monk has come to pay his respects to you. He bowed deeply, his hands folded together. His twin hands exerted power, and a deep, booming sound came from the bricks on the floor, as though someone had kowtowed. Cui Bai-chan and Guo Yanzi looked at each other. Both of them were equally struck dumb with amazement. This monk's internal energy is so profound. I fear that we won't be able to take even a single stance from him. The old madam nodded. Excellent, excellent. In this world, there are more deceitful people than there are honest people. Even for something like kowtowing, some evil scoundrels want to be deceitful. Even when they clearly have not kowtowed, they make booming sounds on the floor as though they have, so as to deceive this old lady's bad eyes. But you, kid, you are great. You are very obedient. You kowtowed very loudly. Duan Yu couldn't resist a snort of amusement. The old lady slowly turned around and said, Abi, did someone just fart? She reached out her hand and pinched her nose. Abi, holding in laughter, said, Old mistress, isn't the case? Young Master Duan let out a laugh. The old lady said, Broken? What's broken? So Duan Yu's surname, Duan, sounds like the character for broken. Abi replied, Nothing's broken. His surname is Duan. He's the young master of the Duan family. The old lady nodded. Right. Young master this and young master that. Day in and day out. You are always thinking about your young master. Abi's face reddened. The old mistress's ears aren't good. She needs to be more careful when gossiping. The old lady turned towards Duan Yu. Kid, why haven't you kowtowed yet? Duan Yu said, Old mistress, there's something I want to tell you. What is it? Duan Yu replied, I have a niece who is very intelligent and clever, but who is also extremely mischievous. She loves dressing up as a little monkey to mess around. One day she'll dress up as a male monkey, the next day a female monkey. She knows how to do acrobatics too. Old mistress, you'd love to meet her. It's too bad that I didn't bring her along to have her kowtow to you. The old lady really was the other servant girl of the Murong family, Ah Ju, dressed up in disguise. Her abilities in the arts of disguise and makeup were godlike. Not only could she make herself look different, her words and her mannerisms were impeccable as well, not revealing a single flaw. Thus, even extremely intelligent people such as Jimozu or experienced Jianghu veterans such as Cui Bai-chan didn't suspect her in the slightest. Unexpected, Duan Yu was able to ferret out the truth using the faint aroma which her body gave off and which she had no way of hiding. Hearing him speak thusly, Aju was startled, but didn't change her demeanor in the slightest, continuing to appear like a senile, doddering old lady with bad vision and half-deaf ears. She said, good kid, you are really smart. I've never met such a smart child as you before. Good kid, don't talk too much. This old lady will definitely take care of you. Duan Yu thought to himself, what she means is that she wants me to not reveal her secret. She's trying to fend off this evil baldy, Jimozi. That makes her a friend, not an enemy. He said, Old mistress, please put your heart at ease. Now that I am at your manor, naturally, I am at your disposal, and will obey your commands. Aju replied,
You are an obedient kid to listen to my words. Great. First, kowtow 3 times to this old lady. I definitely will give you great benefits if you do so.
Guan Yu was startled. I am the regal son of the imperial crown brother of Dali. How can I kowtow to a little girl like you? Aju, seeing the awkward look on his face, sneered.
Good kid. Let me tell you right now, the best choice for you is to obediently kowtow a few times to your granny.
Guan Yu turned his head and saw Abi, lips pursed in a smile, casting side glances at him. Her skin was as white and freshly peeled. Her skin was as white as freshly peeled water chestnuts, and a small, fine black mole was at the corner of her lips, making her look all the more charming and lovely. His heart was suddenly stirred. Oh no, he's falling for her. Sister Abi, I heard that there is a sister Aju in your respected manor. Is she as beautiful? Is she as beautiful as you are? Abi smiled. Aha! How could an ugly freak like me be worthy of such praise? If Sister Aju heard you asking questions like that, she definitely would be real unhappy like, yeah? How can I compare to her? Sister Aju is 10 times more beautiful than I am. Guan Yu asked, truly? Abi grinned. Why would I lie to you? Guan Yu said, for a person to be 10 times more beautiful than you is totally impossible, unless it's the goddess of the Jade Cavern. For a person to even be on your level would make them a rare beauty. Abi's cheeks flushed red. She bashfully said, the old mistress asked you to kowtow. Who asked you to praise me so highly? Oh no, another girl that will turn into his sister? Oh no. Guan Yu said, the old mistress must have originally been a nationally famous heaven-like beauty as well. To tell you the truth, I don't really care if I get any benefits, but I am more than willing to kowtow a few times to a world-class beauty. As he spoke, he fell to his knees. He thought to himself, since I'm going to kowtow, I might as well do so loudly. I already kowtowed a few thousand times to the jade statue. What's the big deal if I kowtow to a beautiful lady of the Jianghu a few times? He immediately kowtowed loudly 3 times. Aju was extremely delighted. She thought to herself, this young master clearly knows that I'm just a little servant girl, but is actually willing to kowtow to me. This is really rare. She said, good kid. Very good, very good. It's too bad that I didn't bring you a meeting present. Abi interjected, old mistress, just don't forget about it and just give it. Okay, this is her. Old mistress, just don't forget about. What does that mean? Just don't forget about it and just give it to him next time? I think she means just forget about it, right? Old mistress, just forget about it and just give it to him the next time. Aju glanced at Abi. She said towards Tui Baichan and Guo Yanzi, why haven't these 2 guests kowtowed to me? Guo Yanzi let out a sound. In a rough voice and with a rough attitude, he said, do you know martial arts or not? Aju said, what did you say? Guo Yanzi replied, I asked if you know martial arts or not. If you possess a high level of martial arts, then I, Guo Yanzi, am willing to die underneath your hand, Mistress Murong. But if you aren't a member of the Wu Lin, then there's no need for me to bother wasting my breath with you. Aju shook her head. What's this about 100-legged centipede? Naturally, we have centipedes here. When they bite people, it's very painful. Turning towards Jiumozi, she said, great monk, I hear you want to go check out my nephew's tomb. What type of treasure do you intend to pilfer from the tomb? Although Jiumozi still did not realize that she was actually a girl, he had long since figured out she was just pretending to be deaf and dumb, and that she wasn't as nearsighted or as muddle-headed as she pretended to be. He became more guarded and thought to himself, Mr. Murong was such an extraordinary figure. His family members must be exceptional as well. He pretended to not have heard the words pilfer from the tomb, and said,
This humble monk was a close bosom friend of Mr. Murong. After hearing the horrible news of his passing, I have rushed here from Tibet to pay my respects before his tomb. In the past, I made a promise to Mr. Murong to bring him the manuscript for the Duan family of Dali's Divine Sword of the Six Meridians and let him check it out. For me to still have not carried out my promise fills my heart with shame. Aju and Abi exchanged glances. They both thought to themselves, finally, this monk has brought up the relevant issues. Aju asked, And what happens if you are able to bring the manuscript for the Divine Sword of the Six Meridians? What happens if you are not? Jumotsu replied, In the past, my Mr. Murong and I made an agreement. As long as I was able to retrieve the manual of the Divine Sword of the Six Meridians for him to read for a few days, he would allow me to read for a few days in the Water Pavilion of Bestowal and Repayment. Oh. So he's not after this manual, I guess. He's after this Water Pavilion thing. Aju suddenly felt afraid. For this monk to actually know the name Water Pavilion of Bestowal and Repayment, maybe he is telling the truth after all. She immediately pretended to be confused and said, What's this about porridge and boiled dumplings? Do you want some porridge and chicken broth dumplings? That's easily done. You are a monk. Can you eat meat or fish? Jumotsu turned his head towards Abi. I don't know if this old mistress is truly confused or just faking it. For her to be so unwelcoming cannot help but to give a feeling of coldness in one's heart. Aju said, Oh, so your heart is feeling cold? Abi, quick, go and make a bowl of hot chicken and duck blood soup, so as to warm this great master's heart and lungs. Abi held in her laughter. The master doesn't eat meat. Aju nodded. Then don't use real chickens and real ducks. Use vegetarian chicken and vegetarian duck meat. Abi said, Old mistress, vegetarian chicken doesn't have any blood. Then what are we to do? The two of them exchanged one phrase after another, and all their words were full of nonsense. Most people of Suzhou had quick teeth and clever mouths. In later generations, the storytelling abilities of Suzhou people became famous throughout the world because of this. These two girls were used to messing around and teasing each other, and now rendered Jumotsu unable to do anything. Originally, he came to Gusu with the intention of discussing an important matter with young Master Murong. Unexpectedly, the young master was not present, and everyone he met intertwined falsehoods with obfuscations, sometimes seeming to do so inadvertently, other times seeming to act in such a way on purpose, intermixing lies with truth. This rendered him unable to decide how to handle the situation. After a brief moment of pondering, he concluded that Madame Murong, Sun-san, old servant Huang, and Abi were all trying to ward him off. Since they would not let him visit the mausoleum, they definitely would not be willing to allow him to enter the Water Pavilion of Bestowal and Repayment and read secret martial arts manuals. Okay, so this Water Pavilion has a bunch of secret manuals that he wants to read. That's why he's doing this. At this moment, he decided what he should do would be to clearly explain the situation and ignore their play acting and deception. That way, in the future, regardless of whether they treated him with respect or came to blows with him, he would have already claimed the moral high ground. He immediately said in a calm, even-tempered voice, I have brought the manuscript for the Divine Sword of the Six Meridians. Thus, I make the daring request that we act in accordance with the agreement, and I be allowed to go read in the Water Pavilion of Bestowal and Repayment. Abi said, Old Master Murong has already passed away. First, there's no evidence of this agreement. Secondly, even if you brought the manual, there's nobody present who is capable of reading it. Any agreements made in the past are naturally no longer valid now. Aju said, What sword manual? Where is it? Let me check it out first. Pointing to Duanyu, Jimotsu said, Within this young gentleman's mind lies the fully memorized manuscript. for the divine sword of the 6 meridians. I have brought him here. This is the same as bringing an actual manuscript. Abi smiled. Oh, I thought there was really a manual, so you were just playing a joke on us, great master. I wouldn't dare. The original manual for the divine sword has been burnt to ash by Elder Kurong at the Heavenly Dragon Monastery. Fortunately, this gentleman has fully memorized it all. Abi replied, If young Master Duan memorized it, then it's his business. Even if we were to invite someone to the water pavilion to read, it would be him. What does it have to do with you, great master? Jumozu replied, In order to fulfill my promise of latter days, I intend to immolate him in front of Mr. Murong's mausoleum. That means to burn him. Upon hearing these words, everyone was astonished. But seeing the calm, placid, serious expression on the face, he definitely did not appear to be making a joke. This astonished them all the more. Abi said, Great master, you must be jesting. How can he allow you to just casually cremate him like that? Jumotsu said dully, If I want to immolate him, I don't think he would be able to resist. Greetings from Thailand? Hey, greetings from USA. Abi smiled. Great master, you say that young gentleman Duan has memorized the manual for the divine sword, but that clearly cannot be true. If young gentleman Duan really memorized such a fearful martial arts as the divine sword, how could he be so easily controlled by you? Jumotsu nodded. Miss, you know only half the story. I have sealed all of his major acupoints, and he is unable to exert any energy at all. Aju shook her head continuously. I believe you even less now. Unseal his acupoints and let him show off the divine sword first. I think that 99% of your words are lies. Jumotsu nodded. Good idea. We can demonstrate. Duan Yu praised Abi as being beautiful and was absolutely charmed by her vocal and instrumental musical skills. Abi naturally liked him. In addition, not only did he not reveal Aju's disguise, he also kowtowed to her 3 times. This made Aju happy with him as well. Thus, upon hearing that his acupoints had been sealed, both of the girls wanted to trick Jumotsu into unsealing his acupoints. They didn't expect that Jumotsu would immediately agree. He stretched out his palm towards Duan Yu's body and tapped his hand a few times towards Duan Yu's back, chest, and legs. Duan Yu instantly felt as though his acupoints became unsealed, and the flow of his blood became unimpeded. As soon as he generated his internal energy, he could feel his qi beginning to circulate throughout his body. He immediately generated his energy in accordance with the directions for the Zhongchong sword technique, inciting his internal energy to pass to the middle finger of his right hand. He felt a roasting hot sensation at the tip of his middle finger and knew that all he needed to do would be to extend his finger, and sword qi would immediately shoot out. He's gonna roast him in a rap battle. Jimotsu said, Young Master Duan, Mistress Murong does not believe that you have practiced the divine sword of the 6 meridians. Please show off your ability. Do as I do and chop off a branch from this osmanthus tree. As he spoke, he sent out a slanting palm strike with his left palm. His palm released its stored up internal energy. It was a stroke from his blazing saber technique. With a light cracking sound, a single branch of the osmanthus tree broke in half and fell to the ground, as though someone had chopped it with a saber or sword. Cui Bai-chan and Guo Yanzi couldn't help but let out an cry of alarm. Although they knew that this barbarian monk possessed some extremely unusual skills, they thought that his skills were simply heterodox and evil. Only now, when they watched him chop off a tree branch, did they realize how profound his internal energy was. His energy was at a level that was rarely heard of and rarely seen. He's pointing in the middle. Yeah, this monk is very good at fingering. Yeah.
Duan Yu shook his head. I don't know any martial arts at all, much less any divine sword of the 6 meridians, or heavenly saber of the 8 channels. Why did you have to go and ruin a perfectly fine osmanthus tree? True. Jiumozu replied, Young Master Duan, why so modest? Your level of martial arts is highest amounts of... Wait, what? Your level of martial arts is the highest in the elite martial artists of Dali's Duan family. In this day and age, aside from young Master Murong and my humble self, I'm afraid no one is superior to you. Gusu's Murong Mansion is a repository of martial arts learning in the world. Why don't you show a few stances and have the old mistress give you some advice? That would be a very good thing for you. Duan Yu replied, Big monk, this entire trip you have taken such a wonderful care of me, tugging me here and pulling me there, dragging me all the way to Jiannan. At first, I didn't want to say another word to you at all, but now that I'm at Gusu and have met such beautiful heavenly girls here, the anger in my heart has dissipated. From now on, let's make a clean break. Neither of us needs to bother with the other. Aju and Abi, hearing him speak in a pedantic bookworm-like manner, couldn't help but secretly laugh. They couldn't help but feel secretly happy as well upon hearing him praise them. Jiumozu said, Young master, if you refuse to display your divine sword, won't you be making me look like a liar? Well, you were full of nonsense to begin with. If you had an agreement with Mr. Murong, why didn't you come to Dali earlier? Why would you wait until Mr. Murong passed away and became unable to refute your words before coming to the Murong Manor and cause an endless ruckus? Truth. You know what I think? I think you covet the high-level martial arts skills of the Murong family and came up with a false story to trick the old mistress into allowing you into their library and secretly study their private martial arts and figure out the secrets behind their using the opponent's skills, exercising them upon the opponent. How can you possibly not realize that these people, being of a long-standing, famous, aristocratic Wulin family, would see right through this trick of yours? If you could really steal away their martial arts techniques based solely upon your lies and rubbish, wouldn't anybody be able to? Who isn't able to make up this sort of nonsense? Definition of pedantic? Pedantic means... how do I explain it? Like, you're very focused on the meanings of each word. Like, so you're very worried about using the correct words in a sentence. Like, you're very particular with your words, I believe. Precise with your words, yeah. What kind of definition is this? Of or like a pedant? All right, let's try Merriam-Webster. Why? Yeah, one who is unimaginative or unduly emphasizes minutia in the presentation or use of knowledge. Oh, so it doesn't just have to do with words, but it has to do with everything. You're very particular about presenting things, I guess. Yeah, but when you say someone is pedantic, is usually you're usually referring to them being very particular about certain words. So he's like, who isn't able to make up this sort of nonsense? Aju and Abi agreed in one voice. Jiumozu shook his head. Young Master Duan, your conjectures are incorrect. Although it is true that I made my agreement with Mr. Murong a long time ago, for 9 years I sequestered myself in solitary meditation,
while I mastered the blazing saber technique and thus could not go to Dali. If I had not mastered the blazing saber technique, I would not have been able to leave the Heavenly Dragon Monastery alive. Like a rules lawyer in D&D. Yeah, like that. Yeah, don't be a pedant. Don't be a pedant? How do you say it? A pedant? Don't be pedantic.
Pedant.
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 Pedant. Don't be a pedant. How do you say it in British?
Pedant.
Pedant.
Pedant. Pedant.
Pedant. Don't be a pedant, guys. Duan Yu said, "Great master, you possess great fame, great power, and such an incredible level of martial arts. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you just stayed peacefully in Tibet as its Dharma king and national protector? Why come to Jiannan to deceive people? I recommend you return as soon as possible." Jimozu said, "Young master, if you refuse to display the divine sword, please do not blame me for being discourteous. You've been acting impolite all along. Can it be that you found a way to be even more impolite still? At worst, you can kill me with a single chop of your saber. What's the big deal?" Jimozu replied, "Very good. Wear my saber." He raised his left palm and a powerful wind rushed towards Duan Yu's face. I think that's beware my saber, maybe. Duan Yu had long since hatched a plan. As his martial arts was far inferior to that of Jimozu, whether or not he fought back made no difference at all. If Jimozu wanted to show what he knew, or show that he knew the divine sword of the six meridians, he would refuse to do so no matter what. Thus, upon seeing Jimozu convert his internal energy into a saber blade and chop towards him, Duan Yu toughened his spine and neither blocked nor parried. Jimozu was startled. Duan Yu was his only source of the manual of the divine sword. No matter what, he couldn't kill him before he acquired it for himself. He hurriedly lifted his hands higher, and with a shwa sound, a cool wind passed over Duan Yu's head, taking with it a large chunk of his hair. Cui Baichan and Guo Yanzi were simultaneously shocked. Aju and Abi's faces couldn't help but turn pale as well. Jimozu said in an awe-inspiring voice, "Young Master Duan, would you really rather die than fight back?" Duan Yu had long since thrown his fear of death into the wind. He laughed loudly and said, "Ha ha ha! Greed, wrath, lust, desire, foolishness. Master monk, you possess all of these flaws, and yet you falsely claim to be an eminent Buddhist monk. You really are not deserving of the title." That is unfair, okay? That is unfair. That monk did not show any lust at all. Well, except if you... maybe lust for martial arts. Maybe that's what he meant. Jimozu suddenly hacked a palm towards Abi while shouting, "Unspeakable! I'll first kill this servant girl of the Murong Manor to display my power." This stroke came very quickly. Abi was shocked and hurriedly slanted her body to avoid it. Crack! A chair behind her was split into two by this gush of internal energy. Jimozu followed that strike with another from his right palm. Abi fell down on the floor and hurriedly rolled away. Although her movements were quick, she was already in a very precarious situation. Jimozu let out a fierce roar and shot out his third saber attack. That was uncalled for. Abi was so terrified that her face turned pale. She had no idea what to do against this invisible energy attack. Aju didn't have any time to think. She shot out her palms and attacked Jimozu's back. When she was earlier moving about and speaking, she had the mannerisms of a 70 or 80-year-old lady. But now, when she attacked, she displayed strong, vigorous, and quick movements. In a single glance, Jimozu understood everything. With a laugh, he said, "Ha ha, so there are 16 or 17-year-old grannies in the world. How long exactly did you intend to deceive this monk?" He struck a palm backwards with a cracking sound.
shattered the wooden staff in her hands into 3 pieces. Following this, he once more chopped towards Abi. In her terror, Abi grabbed a table and used it as a shield. With 2 clattering sounds, the red sandalwood table instantly disintegrated, leaving only a pair of table legs in her hands. Seeing Abi forced into the wall, without any place to flee, and Jiumozu striking out with yet another palm, Duan Yu no longer cared about whether or not he could defeat Jiumozu. His only intention was to save her life. He struck out with his middle finger, and his internal energy surged forth from his Zhongchong acupoint, with a ch-ch sneering sound. It was this Zhongchong technique. Jiumozu didn't really want to kill Abi, he just wanted to force Duan Yu's hand. Otherwise, how could Abi manage to dodge the wondrous, brilliant stances of the blazing saber technique for so long? Seeing Duan Yu strike out at him, he immediately sent out a hacking palm towards Aju. A powerful gust of wind roared towards her, sending her staggering back. The shoulder of her dress was mangled by his internal energy. She let out an "ah!" crying in startlement. Duan Yu followed his first attack with a Shaozi sword attack from his left hand, blocking Jiumozu's attack on Aju with the blazing saber technique. In the blink of an eye, Abi and Aju both escaped a very dangerous situation, as Duan Yu used his divine sword to totally block both of Jiumozu's saber strikes. Jiumozu, wanting both to show off his own ability, as well as to prove that Duan Yu really knew the divine sword of the 6 meridians, intentionally let Duan Yu's internal energy block his own. Having drained the energy of so many elite martial artists at this point in time, Duan Yu's internal energy was actually more powerful than that of Jiumozu. Unfortunately, he didn't know any martial arts at all, and wasn't able to execute any of the sword techniques which he had memorized at the Heavenly Dragon Monastery. Jiumozu tricked his powerful internal energy into being dispersed east and west, to the point where the doors and the windows were filled with holes. All the while, Jiumozu was saying, "The divine sword of the 6 meridians is really very formidable. No wonder Mr. Murong admired it so much in the past." Cui Baichan was extremely startled. "I always believed that Prince Duan has no skill in martial arts. Who would have imagined that he possesses such a refined, exquisite technique? The Duan family of Dao Li really lives up to his fame. Fortunately, I did not do a single bad thing during my time at the South Subduing Palace. Otherwise, how could this old life of mine remain for so long?" The more he thought, the more nervous he grew, until his forehead and his clothes were soaked with sweat. Jiumozu fought with Duan Yu for a while. With each stroke, he was capable of taking Duan Yu's life. However, he wanted to play around with him for a bit. But towards the end, he felt less and less contempt towards Duan Yu. He felt that Duan Yu's internal energy was exceedingly strong and vigorous, and definitely not below his own at all. But for some reason, once the energy was actually used, the end result was not that impressive at all. It was akin to a 3-year-old kid from an exceedingly rich family who owned tens of thousands of strings of cash, but was unable to use it properly. After throwing out a few more strokes, Jiumozu's heart was suddenly shaken. What if in the future he grows intelligent, suddenly learning how to use his abilities, as well as the fundamentals of martial arts, with this level of internal energy and this sword technique? What an extremely fearful opponent he would be. Oh, is that foreshadowing what's going to happen? Duan Yu had long known that his continued existence lay solely under the control of Jiumozu. He shouted, "Sister Aju and Abi, hurry up and run away. If you take any longer, you won't have a chance to escape." Aju asked, "Young Master Duan, why are you rescuing us?" Duan Yu replied, "This monk relies on his high level of martial arts to bully and oppress others. Unfortunately, I don't know any martial arts at all. It is difficult for me to fight him off. Hurry up and run away." All right. We'll take a 5-minute break, all right? I will be right back. And we're back. All right, so this monk is fighting with Duan. Okay, this monk is a master of fingering. He can kill Duan at any time. Right. Let's see what happens. Jiumozu laughed. Far too late for that. Taking a step forwards, he struck out with the fingers of both hands, pointing towards Duan Yu's acupoints. Duan Yu let out a cry. Aiyo! He tried to avoid the attack, but how could he? Once more, 3 of his vital acupoints were sealed, and his limbs immediately felt numb and heavy. Falling on the floor, he shouted loudly, Aju, Abi, hurry up and leave! Jiumozu laughed. You are on the brink of death and unable to protect yourself. You still have the desire to enjoy perfume and cherish jade. He returned to his original seat and said to Aju, Young miss, there's no need for you to continue play acting and fooling around. Who exactly is in charge of the manners matter? Young Master Duan fully memorized the entirety of the divine sword of the 6 meridians, but does not know martial arts, and thus finds it difficult to actually use it. Tomorrow I will take him to Mr. Murong's mausoleum and burn him in sacrifice. In the underworld, Mr. Murong will understand that his old friend did not renege upon their earlier agreement. Aju knew that no one currently at the pavilion of zither melodies was a match for this monk. Wrinkling her forehead, she laughed. Fine, Master Monk will believe your words. The old master's mausoleum is a day's journey away by water. Tonight it is too late to leave. Tomorrow morning the 2 of us will personally escort you and young Master Duan to pay your respects at the tomb. The 4 of you, please just wait a short moment. Dinner will be served soon. After she spoke, she grabbed Abi by the wrist and retreated to the inner pavilion. After an hour passed, a small servant came out and said, Miss Aju would like to invite the 4 of you to the dwelling for listening to the rain for supper. Jiumozu said, Many thanks. Stretching out his hand, he seized Duan Yu's arm and followed the man in. They winded their way through hundreds of feet of paved cobble. They winded their way through hundreds of feet of paved cobblestone alleys and a few stone parks before arriving by the waterside. Beneath the willow trees lay a small boat. The male servant pointed to a cabin with windows on all 4 sides that was situated in the middle of the water. It is right here. Jiumozu, Duan Yu, Cui Baichan, and Guo Yanzi stepped into the boat, and the male servant rowed them there. They arrived after a brief period of time. Duan Yu walked up the wooden oak stairs and entered the dwelling for listening to the rain. He saw Abi waiting to attend to the guests, wearing light green clothing. By her side stood a young maiden who wore a light red yarn cloth garment. She was also around 16 or 17 years of age, and she aimed an expression that seemed like a smile, yet wasn't quite towards Duan Yu. Her face was full of mischievousness and cleverness. Abi had a melon seed face and was elegant and beautiful. This maiden had a goose egg face. Okay, does anyone know what that means? Her eyes were lively and intelligent, and she displayed a different type of stirring aura. As soon as she entered the room, Duan Yu once again hold on. Goose egg shape equals oval. And what is a melon seed? Wait, melon seed. Goose egg shape is a compliment. What is a melon seed shaped face mean? Like it's elongated? You're guessing melon seed means teardrop shaped? Is it a compliment or is it not a compliment? Heart shaped. Okay. The melon seed means heart shaped. As soon as he entered the room, Duan Yu once again smelled that faint fragrance. Laughing, he said, Sister Aju, you are such a beautiful woman. It must have been tough for you to so convincingly portray an old lady. That maiden was indeed Aju. She batted him a glance, then laughed. You kowtowed to me 3 times, and aren't content in your heart, am I right? Duan Yu shook his head repeatedly. There was a lot of reason for me to kowtow 3 times to you. Only my guesses were a bit off. Aju asked, What did you guess wrong? I guessed from the beginning that you were just like Abi, that both of you were beauties, the likes of which are rarely seen in the world. But in my heart, I imagined that you must have been about on par with Abi. I didn't imagine that upon actually seeing you, well, Aju interjected. You found that I was far inferior to Abi? Abi said at the same time, You were greatly startled because she is 10 times more beautiful than me, right? Duan Yu shook his head. Neither. I just felt that the heavens are really capable and are truly worthy of mankind's admiration. After racking their brains and creating such a beautiful girl as Sister Abi, they should have totally exhausted all of their ability to portray the spirit and beauty of Jiangnan. Who would have imagined that they would be able to create a Sister Aju as well? The 2 of you look totally different, yet each of you possess your own unique beauty. It makes me want to say a few things in praise, but I couldn't manage to say a single word at all. Alright, laying it on a little thick, guy. Melon sheep means she has a pointy jaw. Gotcha. Thanks, you 2 Angel. I appreciate it. Aju laughed. Bah! You glibly just said a lot of things in praising us and still want to claim that you couldn't manage to say a single word? Abi smiled slightly, then turned her head and spoke to Jimozu and the rest. I'm afraid that we don't have the resources to properly welcome you for esteemed personages. I'll have to ask that you just make do with our watery wine and do your best to enjoy some of our local Jiangnan dishes. She immediately invited the 4 of them to be seated, with her and Abi taking seats to the right. Duan Yu saw that the dwelling for listening to the rain was surrounded by water on all 4 sides. Glancing out the window, he saw mist covering the waters of the lake. Turning back to the table, he saw that all of the dishes on the table were made of exquisite porcelain. In his heart, he couldn't help but exclaim in praise. Shortly afterwards, the male servants brought some dishes made from fruits and vegetables. 4 vegetarian dishes were especially prepared for Jimozu. Next came a number of cooked dishes: white water chestnuts with shrimp meat, lotus leaf, and winter bamboo shoot soup, cherry ham, dragon well vegetable leaves with chicken, and the like. Every dish was extremely unique. In the middle of the fish, shrimp, and meat were intermixed flower petals and fresh fruit. The dishes were extremely beautiful and gave off a natural, pure fragrance. Duan Yu tried a few chopsticks of every single dish. All of them were wonderful and tasty. He praised
Only such a wonderful landscape as this place can produce such talented people. In turn, only such talented people can be so intelligent and wise as to produce such elegant dishes. He really is his father's son. He is, absolutely. Aju said, guess if I cooked the dishes, or if Abi cooked the dishes. Duan Yu replied, the cherry ham and the plum blossom duck are fragrant, tender, and rosy. I think you made them. The lotus leaf and winter bamboo shoot soup and the round jade fish slices are verdant and cleanly chopped. Naturally, they were made by Sister Abi. Aju clapped her hands and laughed. Your guessing abilities are really good. Abi, what should we reward him with? Abi smiled. If young Master Duan has any instructions for us to carry out, we would naturally do so to the best of our abilities. What's all this talk about giving him rewards and awards? We're just servant girls. We aren't worthy of such. Aju replied, as soon as you open your mouth, you flatter others. No wonder everyone says you're good and I'm bad. Duan Yu laughed. Gentle and refined, lively and clever. The two are equally good. Sister Abi, earlier when I heard you playing songs on the soft whip, I felt relaxed and carefree. I'd like to ask you to play some melodies on actual instruments. If you do so, even if I am turned into ash tomorrow by this great monk, my time on this earth won't have been spent in vain. What are dragon well vegetables? Yeah, what are those? Dragon well. Oh, vegetables with tea leaves, maybe. Dragon well is a tea. Abi rose to her feet. As long as you don't find it unpleasant to hear, I am willing to embarrass myself to give some joy to our guests. As she spoke, she went behind a screen and came out with a precious jade zither. Abi sat up straight on a brocade seat and placed the jade zither in front of her. She waved towards Duan Yu and laughed. Young Master Duan, why don't you come over and see if you can identify what type of zither this is? Walking to her, Duan Yu saw that her zither was a foot shorter than ordinary 7-stringed zithers. In addition, it had 9 strings, each of which had a different color. He muttered to himself, this is the first time I've seen this 9-stringed zither. Azu walked towards them and plucked a single string on the zither. The sound was very loud and clear. The string was made out of metal. Duan Yu said, Sister, this zither is... Just as he spoke these 4 words, the floor suddenly disappeared underneath him. His body fell straight down. He couldn't help but let out a cry of alarm. Next, he felt as though he landed on a soft location. At the same time, he seemed to hear someone say, "Ayo," and "not good," followed by 2 splashing sounds. His body suddenly swayed as the thing he was resting on began to move. This strange event happened very quickly and was totally unexpected. Startled and frightened, he hurriedly sat up. He saw that he was sitting in the middle of a small boat, with Abi and Aju each sitting on one end of the boat. Each of them had an oar and were hurriedly paddling. Turning around, he saw that Jiumozi, Cui Baichan, and Guo Yanzi's heads had just popped above the surface of the water. After but a short period of rowing by Abi and Aju, the small boat was far away from the dwelling for listening to the rain. They rescued him. Brocade definition. A brocade is like a fabric. It's like a embroidered fabric. Yeah, rich fabric woven with raised pattern, typically with gold or silver thread. Suddenly, a drenched person shot up from the surface of the lake. It was Jiumozi. He landed on the side of the dwelling.
for listening to the rain, he easily snapped off a part of a wooden pillar, aimed it at Abi, then urgently cast it towards her. The makeshift missile made a whirring sound as it tore through the air with great force. Abi cried out, "Young Master Duan, duck!" Duan Yu and the other two girls ducked at the same time, as half of a wooden pillar flew right over their heads. The powerful wind made by its passing actually hurt their neck. Flexing her body, Aju turned the boat slightly sideways. Suddenly, a series of loud splashing sounds could be heard, and the small boat suddenly lifted up in the air before immediately falling down again. A large amount of lake water entered the boat, and all three of them became wet. Turning his head, Duan Yu saw that Jiu Mozi had already wrecked the wooden portion of the dwelling for listening to the rain, and was repeatedly tossing stone vessels, incense burners, and other objects towards them. Watching the trajectories of the missiles, Abi turned the boat to avoid them. Meanwhile, Aju kept on paddling forward with all her might. With each stroke of the oar, the boat traveled several feet further away from the dwelling. Jimozu continued to lob missiles at them, but the distance between the boat and where they landed grew greater and greater. Even if his strength was greater, he couldn't compete with the ceaseless tugging of the oars by the two maidens. Turning his head again, Duan Yu saw that Cui Baichan and Guo Yanzi had managed to scramble onto the steps of the dwelling. He felt delighted, but upon seeing Jimozu leap into a small boat, he let out a cry of alarm. Dum, dum, dum. Which artists, illustrators do I admire? I don't remember their name. I have like bookmarks of some really good art by some really good artists. Maybe I'll look at it later. Wait. Aju cried out, "That evil monk is following us!" She exerted all her might to paddle as fast as she could, but after turning her head to take another glance, burst into loud laughter. Duan Yu also turned his head and saw that Jiumozu's boat was just spinning in place. Evidently, although Jiumozu possessed a very high level of martial arts, he didn't know how to row a boat. He's just rowing round and round. The three of them immediately felt relieved. But after a short period of time, they saw that Jiumozu had managed to stabilize the boat and was now hurriedly paddling after them. Abi sighed. This great master is really intelligent. Anything he doesn't know, he learns in a flash. Aju replied, "Let's play hide and seek with him." Tugging on her oar, she brought the boat into the middle of a dense forest of water chestnuts. The great lake had hundreds of harbors and thousands of waterways. After making several turns, their boat entered a small river. They thought to themselves that it was very unlikely that Jiumozu would be able to locate them. Duan Yu said, "Unfortunately, my acupoints are sealed, and I can't help you to row." Abi comforted him. "Young Master Duan, don't be worried. The monk won't be able to chase after us, yeah?" Duan Yu said, The secret mechanism in the dwelling is really interesting. This boat was precisely placed underneath the location where you play the zither, right?" Abi smiled. "Right. That's why I invited you to come check out the zither. Sister Aju's plucking of the zither was the sign for the male servants outside to remove the planks underneath us and have everyone go plop, plop, plop." The three of them laughed loudly in unison. Abi hurriedly covered her mouth and said with a smile, "Don't let that monk near us." From far away, a voice could be heard. "Miss Aju! Miss Abi, please row the boat back. Please hurry back. I am a friend of your master, and definitely will not give you a hard time." It was Jiumozu's voice. His voice was gentle and amiable, capable of causing people to naturally obey his instructions. He has Jedi powers. Aju was startled. "The great master asked for us to come back and says he definitely won't hurt us." As she spoke, she stopped paddling, as though she was seriously considering it. Abi chimed in,
If that's the case, let's go back. Guan Yu's internal energy was very strong, and so wasn't bewildered in the slightest by Jiumozu's voice. He hurriedly said, He's lying. How can you trust his words? Jiumozu's pleasant, amiable words entered their ears. Young missus, your master has returned. He says he wants to see the both of you, and that you are able to return immediately. Yes, return immediately. Aju was compelled to agree. Yes. Lifting up the oar, she turned the boat around. Guan Yu thought to himself, if young Master Murong really had returned, he himself would call out to Aju and Abi. Why would he rely on Jiumozu? This is no doubt an evil technique meant to delude the minds of others. Having come to this conclusion, he reached down and grabbed a few water chestnut leaves, rolled them together, then stuck them into Abi and Aju's ears. He's using the voice. From Dune, he's using the voice. Her wits returned to her. Aju involuntarily cried out, Ak! Ak! Close one! Abi was also frightened. This monk knows some sort of soul-affecting technique. We almost fell for his trick. Turning the boat around, Aju hurriedly began paddling again. She cried out, Abi, paddle as fast as you can. The two of them paddled the boat directly into the middle of the water chestnut fields. After a long time, Jiumozu's voice grew faint and indistinct, until finally he could no longer be heard. Guan Yu gestured to the two of them, signaling that they could now remove the leaves from their ears. Patting her chest, Abi let out a long sigh. Whew! That was real scary-like, yeah? Sister Aju, what do you think we should do? Aju said, let's just paddle around in circles and waste the monk's time. If we get hungry, we can pluck water chestnuts and lotus roots to eat. Even if we face off against him for 10 days or half a month, we wouldn't be in the slightest danger. What? How did they go to the bathroom? Abi smiled. What an interesting idea. Young Master Duan, would you be too bored, though? Guan Yu clapped his hands and laughed. There's no shortage of sights to see on this lake. With the two of you accompanying me in touring this place for 10 days, I would be happier than a celestial being. Abi's smooth lips gently smiled. We're heading towards the southeast right now. There's a lot of tributaries to this river. Aside from local fishermen, nobody can easily remember the routes. After we enter Lake Baichu, the monk would definitely become unable to catch up to us. Guan Yu lay down on the boat, gazing upon the many glittering stars in the sky. Aside from the rustle of the oars and the boat brushing against the water caltrops, there was no sound at all. There was a gentle breeze on the lake, which carried with it a faint aroma. He thought to himself, even if I lived the rest of my life like this, I wouldn't mind. Then he thought to himself, with Aju and Abi being such nice people, young Master Murong can't be some sort of horrible villain either. I wonder if he really was the one to kill Master Xuanbei of Shaolin and Mr. Huo's martial brother. Alas, although my family has a lot of servant girls, none of them can match Sister Aju or Sister Abi. They just do it in the water? How do you wipe? Have you thought of that? Maybe you jump into the water? That makes sense. After a long time, just as he was about to close his eyes and fall asleep, he suddenly heard Abi let out a quiet laugh and say in a low voice, Sister Aju, come over here. Aju also spoke in a low voice. He's sneaking. He's creeping. He's creeping. What do you want? Abi said, come over here. I have something to say. Aju lowered the oar and walked to the stern of the boat. Abi pulled her over by the shoulder and quietly laughed into her ear. Help me think of something so I ain't gonna be shaming myself. Aju laughed. What's the matter? Abi said, quiet. Is young Master Duan asleep yet? Aju replied, Dunno, just go ask him. Abi said, can't. Aju, I need to relieve myself.
Okay. Aha! Just as I suspected. Their voices were as soft as the buzzing of mosquitoes, but Duan Yu's internal energy was extremely profound. Naturally, he heard every word clearly. Upon hearing Abi say these words, he didn't dare move in the slightest. He pretended to let out light snores and be asleep, so as to prevent Abi from being embarrassed. Now, how do you pee without him knowing? Aju laughed quietly. Young Master Duan is asleep, and just go ahead and relieve yourself. Abi bashfully said, I ain't gonna try. What if I'm halfway through and young Master Duan suddenly wakes up? It'll be unthinkable. Aju couldn't help but let out a peal of laughter. She hurriedly covered her mouth and said in a low voice, What do you mean, it'll be unthinkable? Everyone needs to relieve themselves from time to time. Nothing weird about it. Abi shook her body, then in a pleading voice, Please, Sister Aju, help me think of an idea. Aju replied, I'll stand in front of you. You go ahead and relieve yourself. Even if young Master Duan wakes up, he won't be able to see nothing, yeah? Abi replied, But there would be noise. I can't have him here either. Aju laughed. Your sis is out of ideas. I guess you can just relieve yourself on yourself. He won't smell anything. Abi said, I can't. When someone's in front of me, I can't go. True. Aju said, There's no place to go. Just go ahead and do it. Abi was so anxious, she began to cry. I can't. I just can't. Aju suddenly let out another peal of laughter. It's all your fault. If you hadn't said anything, I would have been fine, but now I need to go too. From here to Madame Wang's residence lies only a half-9 away. Let's paddle there and relieve ourselves. It's getting crazy. Yeah. Abi said, Madame Wang forbids us from entering. If she catches us, she'll slap us upside the head a few times. Aju said, Ain't no need to worry. Madame Wang was our old mistress. Curse that. Wait. Madame Wang and our old mistress cursed at and insulted each other. But our old mistress has already passed away, yeah? We're just a pair of servant girls. How could we have offended her? And why would she slap us upside the head, yeah? Let's just quietly sneak on land and relieve ourselves, then immediately leave. How would she ever know we were there? Abi replied, That be so. After mumbling to herself a moment, she said, Then we need to have young Master Duan go ashore and relieve himself first. Otherwise, if we just rush ashore, it'll be real awkward like, yeah? Aju let out a soft laugh. You really know how to take care of people. Careful, if the young master finds out, he'll be jealous. Abi sighed. How could the young master take this sort of small matter to heart, yeah? We're just a pair of little servant girls. The young master has never taken us to heart. Aju said, And I don't want you taking him to heart, yeah? Sister Abi, stop daydreaming about him day and night. Ain't no use. She's in love with the young master. Abi let out a quiet sigh and did not reply. Aju clapped her on the shoulder, then said in a low voice, You are thinking of relieving yourself, but also thinking about the young master. The two thoughts are getting mixed together, yeah? Ain't that a laugh? Ooh. It's an interesting thought. Abi let out a soft laugh. Sis, you're gossiping. Don't you have something to do? Aju returned to the front of the boat and began paddling again. After they paddled for some time, the sky began to brighten. Duan Yu's internal energy was very vigorous, and his energy could not remain sealed forever. Previously, Jiumozu would reseal his acupoints after every few hours had passed. Now, after so much time had passed, he gradually felt his energy circulation begin to smooth out as the sealed acupoints began to unlock. Letting out a lazy yawn, he sat up and said, I took a long nap while you two were working so hard. There's something I need to say, which is a bit inappropriate. Please don't be offended. I need to relieve myself. What a nice guy. He thought that it would be best for him, he himself, to broach the topic first, so as to allow the girls not to feel awkward. Aju and Abi simultaneously let out a burst of laughter. Aju said, "Not too far away is the abode of a relative of ours, the Wang family. Just go ashore there to relieve yourself." Guan Yu said, "If that's the case, wonderful." Aju immediately adopted a stern expression. "But Madame Wang has a very strange temperament. She doesn't allow strange men to visit. As soon as you take care of business, immediately return to the boat. We don't want to cause any unnecessary trouble." Guan Yu replied, "All right, understood." And we're done. Did you guys like that chapter? It got a little weird at the end there. A little funny. Why do you feel like we're not talking about acupoints? True. Oh my god, his acupoints are unlocked. They gradually become more unlocked as time goes by. Tea. But I still have wine. I can drink that too. You really like these two girls? Wait, immolate means to kill? I thought it means to burn. To kill or offer as a sacrifice, especially by burning. You gotta give me that, right? Usually when someone says to immolate something, it means to burn it. It's how it's commonly used, I believe. All right. All right. Cheers. Alright guys, that was a fun chapter. I hope you liked it. I love you. I'll see you next week. All right, bye.